We're back with another episode of Conversations and Connections. We're the official podcast of the Family Crisis Center of East Texas. I'm Stuart Burson, the prevention coordinator for the agency. And we're kicking off the 2025 podcast year. January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And so with me today is one of my coworkers, Mallory Dotson, with our agency. Mallory Mallory, should I say you're in, and Mallory, I'm going to get you to kind of maybe pull the mic just a little bit closer to you there. There we go. Okay. I don't know if it's safe to say that you're in charge of our human trafficking efforts, or you just kind of play a part in talking with these folks. But what's your role with the agency as far as human trafficking goes?
So me and my coworker, we kind of split the sexual assault and human trafficking cases. Okay. So basically, depending on the county that the person being trafficked is from, is who they're gonna get. So like anyone in like Nacogdoches, Sabine, St. Augustine, the S counties over there is kind of like I'll take them, and then in Angelina, Trinity, Crockett things, and then my coworker Emma will take them. So
okay, all right. So again, and I think we always have to redefine this every year, even amongst some of the people that we work with, maybe not here at the agency, but some of the other agencies and some of the entities that we work with. I kind of want to start everything off by let's kind of define and avoid confusion between human trafficking and human smuggling, because there is a difference, and I'd like, if you don't mind, kind of explain what that difference is. What defines trafficking versus smuggling?
So smuggling is a crime against a border, not a person. When people think of trafficking, they think of moving someone from one country to another illegally. That is smuggling. You're committing a crime against that border, whereas human trafficking, you're committing a crime against a person. So that person is being forced to go. In order for it to be considered trafficking, there has to be force, fraud, or coercion. If there's not one of those three and they're being transferred to country, then that would be smuggling. But if that person is not free to go, and it's against their will, or there's force, fraud, or coercion, then that's trafficking.
Even if it's not, obviously, maybe even not for, when you say can't go, not necessarily they're in shackles or anything, but they're under this, what they perceive maybe as an obligation or under a threat.
Yeah.
It's like you said, force, fraud, or coercion.
There has to be one of those three for it to be trafficking.
Yeah.
And smuggling can definitely turn into trafficking. Yeah. But if somebody's just transporting one person to country illegally, then that's smuggling.
Right. Okay. So, how we always kind of think when we hear about human trafficking, the way it's always played out in media. When I say in media, I'm not necessarily talking about news. I'm talking about entertainment media. It's the way it's portrayed in movies and in TV shows and things like that. It's always in big cities, New York, LA. If we wanted to localize it, people would probably think Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, whatever, right? But how big of a problem is human trafficking in rural East Texas?
It's hard to say how big of a problem. It's definitely happening, and it definitely is a problem. Now, is it going on as much as Houston? No, not necessarily. But human trafficking is like other person-on-person crimes like sexual assault or domestic violence, and it's wildly unreported. So while we see trafficking victims, we're not seeing all of them. And so some people don't even know that they've been trafficked as well. So they'll come in saying that they've been sexually assaulted, when in reality they've been trafficked. So you can't say how big of an issue, but it definitely is an issue that is happening.
It happens. So people never should dismiss it. Oh, well, that's something for the metropolitan areas. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen here.
And it definitely is happening. And you could say it is happening a lot. Now, it's not. Is it happening as much as Houston and Harris County?
Right.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going on more than people think.
Okay. I kind of want to revisit a comment you just made about how sometimes you'll see someone and they say they've been sexually assaulted, but they don't realize they've been trafficked. Mm-hmm. what's that defining, and maybe you've already answered this, but let's just kind of reiterate it. Um, how do you determine if they've been trafficked? I guess maybe I should ask. They've definitely been sexually assaulted. I think even the lay listener probably knows what sexual assault is. But how would you determine if somebody comes to your office, I've been sexually assaulted, to determine if they've in fact also been trafficked?
Yes. So sexual assault is any unwanted sexual contact to the recipient. That's
Right.
definition of sexual assault. However, sex trafficking includes recruiting, transporting, and someone to engage in a sex act in exchange for money or something of value. So an example would be like a pimp having someone under like duress have sex with a customer, and then that customer pays the pimp, and that person who is forced to have sex receives nothing. That would be trafficking. Now, is that person being trafficked sexually assaulted? Absolutely. But in a sexual assault, there doesn't have to be an exchange of money or value or anything like that. Whereas trafficking, there's usually an exchange, whether it be money, drugs, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Um, how does someone even find themselves, and let's say rural East Texas. Let's not even think about a metropolitan area. Let's think about Lufkin, Nacogdoches, Tyler, whoever, right? How does someone find themselves in that situation? What are some of the tactics that traffickers use to lure people into this world?
And trafficking can happen to everyone, but there are populations that are more vulnerable. So traffickers are looking for people. They're looking for people who are vulnerable, whether it be someone who cannot provide basic needs for themselves, or if they're like a minor, somebody is not providing them basic needs, or maybe they have an addiction of something. And so that trafficker sees that vulnerability and they're like, I can provide that. All you have to do is come work for me.
Yeah.
I think New York Times did like this investigative thing, and they interviewed like a convicted pimp and trafficker, and he said that his job was just to provide the basic needs for the people being trafficked, and kept all the money. So he's like, all I had to do is make sure they were fed, bathed, clothed, and then I kept all the money.
Right.
So to lure them, like they're just saying, hey, I'll give you all the drugs you want, or I'll give you all the alcohol you want, or yeah, I'll provide you a safe place to sleep. They say it's safe. It's not really, but
I guess I think about, you take a young kid, of course I always think about a runaway, I'm going to run away. Well, yeah, life stinks at home, but I'll take care of you, kind of like what you said. And then also think about these promises of, hey, you're real pretty. Have you thought about being a model? Hey, well, I can hook you up into this modeling world. And this is a podcast, but I'm using air quotes when I say modeling. And it winds up being a trafficking situation, I guess. I guess I just wonder, because I think any person would first hear this, well, I would never do anything like that. I can imagine my life being that low to where I would allow myself to become a victim of something like this. And well, then the next thing they are, where they had intentions of, modeling or I'm trying to think of what else that there is.
I mean, there also could be, it could be a high school student started dating a new person, and then that person manipulates them and starts making them the center of that high school student's life. And now that person's like, hey, if you'll go hang out with my friends, then that means you really love me. And then that high school student who's young and vulnerable and doesn't know any better goes and does that, and now they're in that life.
Yeah.
And they could be from a wealthy family. Family that took care of them, met all their needs, loved them, and then now they're in that life.
you kind of mentioned this about, I was going to ask you how many here at the Family Crisis Center, do we see a lot of trafficking victims? And I don't know if you know this or not. If you had a ballpark number of about how many clients that you see a year that are trafficking or who are being trafficked, would you have an idea? And I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
If you can't, that's fine.
I don't even know what number I would say.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of threw you a curve on that one. I did, but
You're good. We do see a lot of trafficking clients, but because we also, even if they weren't trafficked from this area, they're still coming here for shelter. So we see trafficking clients from out of state or other parts of the state. So whereas it might have not happened here, but they heard about our shelter, and so
Right.
now they're coming here for a safe place to stay.
Okay.
So they are a trafficking client, they just weren't trafficked here.
Yep.
So we definitely see more we do see a lot of trafficking victims coming here for shelter. So we are seeing a lot of them.
How do we, obviously, we are going to work with clients, help them get out of that situation, get their lives back in order. Is there anything that we do as an agency to combat the problem? I guess, is there anything that we do to help prevent trafficking from taking place to begin with in this area? Or is it more just serving these victims?
I mean, it's both. So things like talking about this, getting word out to the public, and then going out and just talking to whether it be high schools or colleges about what trafficking actually is, how you can, if you realize you're in a situation, how you can spot it before you're actually in the life. And then working with other agencies, as events, like human trafficking agencies in the area, because you never know who's listening. You don't know if maybe there's someone in that audience who is going through that at the current moment, and now they're like, oh, wait, that's happening to me. I didn't know that was trafficking. Or maybe they have a friend going through it, and they're like, oh, wait, no, my friend's going through that.
Yeah.
Things like that, because, if it helps one person, then, I think we've done our job. And as far as, combating the problem, as far as serving victims, whenever they come here, if you're being trafficked, you have nothing to your name. You don't own anything. Everything that you have is it is your traffickers. So now when they come here, we're showing them that, yes, now you're going to have to provide for themselves, but we're helping them ease into that process as best as we can. So providing their basic needs until they can get on their feet, and helping them, whether it be legal system or counseling and things like that, trying to help with that transition, because once you go from a life where everything is being taken care of, whether it's against your will or not, and then now you have to do everything, it's incredibly difficult, which is why a lot of people go back.
Yeah, yeah. We kind of talked about the type of person that a trafficker targets, but what are some of the signs that we can look for if we suspect someone may be a trafficking victim, and if trafficking is going on in the area? So maybe a teacher, someone in education, they have this kid in their class, or this kid from your church, or a kid in the neighborhood. And I guess I shouldn't say a kid, because it can be adults also. But what are some of the signs that we can look for to maybe determine if someone may be trafficked and they don't realize it or they don't want to admit it?
I think a lot like teachers and maybe people in the medical field or counseling or anything, if they're not free to come and go as they please. Now, there are different types of trafficking. So if they're under a pimp, yeah, they can come and go as they please. They just have to check in with their pimp all the time. They have to meet a daily quota or something. So if they ever hear those words oh, I have to meet this, or I'm going to get hit, things like that, that's a big red flag. If they're under 18 and have to perform sex acts, so that's teachers, if you're hearing someone that's having to say that, that's a big sign. If they have unexplained. So like if you're a teacher and you see a kid in your classroom who's usually, maybe they usually smell and they have ratty clothes, and all of a sudden now they're in fancy attire, they're wearing shoes, jewelry, and all of a sudden they're very well taken care of. Like
just all of a sudden.
All of a sudden, like within
Yeah.
a matter of a few weeks. Yeah, that's a big sign that, they're being taken care of now, but they're not free to choose what they do, and they're being forced to where they go and how they live their life now. And another thing is, if they go get medical care, there's usually someone with them. Not usually, but like they're very scared to say exactly what's going on, or they have like those weird excuses, or somebody's answering for them.
Okay, I was going to wonder if someone's like speaking for them instead of letting them speak themselves.
Especially like if it's like a minor, and there's like an adult with them, and they're like, "Oh, I'm her dad or cousin or uncle or something," and that the kid cannot speak for themselves, and that parent air quotes makes all the decisions and everything.
Right. Okay.
And it's very hard to separate them.
Yeah.
That can be a red flag.
Okay. So it is definitely a problem. It's not just a problem in the big cities. It's here in East Texas as well. All right. Mallory, is there anything else that we need to talk about before we wrap it up? Is there something that we may have been overlooking?
I don't think so. There's it's definitely going on here.
Yeah.
And especially like involving in the drug world, trafficking's going on with it.
Sure.
So it's important to keep eyes open.
Yeah. All right. Mallory Dotson with the Family Crisis Center. Thank you so much. This has been a podcast in the making. We've reschedules after reschedules because of personal things or professional things. But we finally got together on this afternoon, or this morning, I should say, to do this. Thanks, Mallory.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So I do want to give you our toll-free number. And now this is if you need our services, whether if you're a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, trafficking, that's 1-800-828-7233. That is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Also, Conversations and Connections. Subscribe to us via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and any podcast service of your choice that you're getting this through. And if you would like to donate, go to our website, FamilyCrisisCenterofEastTexas.com. There at the bottom left, you'll see a donate button. Click on that button if you would like to make a monetary donation to help survivors of relationship violence. Remember, be the voice, if not for you, for someone else.